Beata, and I'm the author of the Project Abroad blog and also obviously this Instagram channel. Through my resources, I help professional expats get more confident and more comfortable in their new culture so that they can build successful international mindsets, careers, and in principle, their lives abroad. So today I will be joined by wonderful Elena from My Way to Etincelles. I will let her decipher that wonderful Instagram name when she joins me. It comes from French, where she's currently based. And she's just the most wonderful person to speak to right now about building careers abroad, because this is exactly what she does in addition to her work, sort of like full-time work. She brings a lot of experience, international experience, her own personal one, but also professional one, and she was working in leadership consulting for many years as well. So I'm really excited to speak to her too.
Well, this amazing introduction already, because I'm just at loss for words in terms of what I should say else. I'm Elena, as you guys know by now. I'm Russian and French, currently based in Paris, and I'm working full-time for an international non-profit organization, and at the same time I'm also running my blog, which name is My Way to Etincelles, and Etincelles from French means sparkles, because I do believe that our careers, they are so associated with our lives that we just don't have a chance to not be sparkling in them like we do in real life.
Oh, love that, love that. I didn't know that this is where it comes from.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So let's start and kick off with I think the broadest sort of question that I had when we first started talking is, I work with a lot of people who also come to me and come to speak to me about like what are the next steps in their careers, like how should they go about building their careers. And very often the answer is, going abroad, building international exposure and experience, because it seems to be so important these days, right? And then the next question that comes up is like, where do I even begin? Like, so what if you know that going abroad is what you want to do, and let's say you even know where you want to go. It's like you've got the country in mind for various reasons. Like, how do you even start building that career abroad?
All right, well, let's just imagine this situation. I have this country in mind, let's call it Happylandia. So I would like to go to Happylandia, but the thing is that in the current setup, let's say, if we take apart all of the personal reasons that might take me to Happylandia, there might be normally around 3 basic ways that get us there. So one of the first ways to go to a different country, to go abroad, is going there for studies, right? Many young professionals especially take benefit of this opportunity. They just go for studies, they do their, let's say, for example, masters, let's say an MBA, and then probably they stay in that country for some time, they get some job experience. So this is one of the ways to very gradually integrate into the market. However, this is one of the ways that really is not universal. It works well at the beginning of your career. It works well when it seems that you are lacking some of the skills, and actually this type of move can really bring those skills to you and bring this opportunity. But this is not something that works in all circumstances. If you're a mid-career professional, if this is not a logical move for you. Mm-hmm. So one of the next things to probably try on is an opportunity to get promoted to a different country within a global multinational where you're getting started just locally. Yeah, so this is one of the opportunities also to explore, and generally this is suited to mid-career professionals with some functional experience, and also who can showcase that the experience that they have is going to be interesting to the office that they would like to go to. Because, in Happylandia, they might be just looking for specialists who are specialized in smileys, and I'm not a smiley specialist. I don't know, I'm doing something else in this life. So probably in Happylandia, it's going to be a bit of a difficulty for me to get integrated and accepted in the same company if I'm just looking for internal mobility or internal promotion.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, there is this third way of going abroad for a career. It's about moving to a different market while searching for some opportunity directly on that market. That means probably not having a knowledge of the market yet, but just trying to find a job in Happylandia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going on LinkedIn and typing in the location of my future job and trying to find out how it works. But here, really, you have to have some solid experience of the new market, some understanding of it. And I think that we can probably expand on this a little bit more with some of the questions that we have prepared on how to actually understand a new market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. No, these are such great ways, right? Because sometimes we just get so caught up in one way of thinking about it. Like, I need to go and find a job there, and it's just so very overwhelming, or it can be sometimes, because like you might not know anything about it, which we can see how we can help people figure it out. But there's so many other ways to do it, right? Well, not so many, but like at least two other ways that we've identified. And sometimes even within your organization, it's possible. Sometimes even when you don't have an office in that location. So I work in a big organization, and obviously we have a lot of offices, and it may be a bit easier, but I've heard about, people who just move and work out of somewhere for 3 months because it's possible, it's been sort of approved, tax wise it's okay, and all that kind of stuff, like legal things are sorted. But the companies are generally open to do this, right? Especially if they have clients there, or if they want to open up to new markets. They want people who are just willing to explore those markets as well. So it's such a great opportunity to be proactive.
Yeah, completely. And I also think that we should probably consider another thing, which is a remote working possibility, which is not something that we have been discussing, in the traditional discourse so far, but which is something that is entering quite actively with the given situation, and which is gonna stay there. So yeah, remote working possibility might also be something that emerges quite well. But for now, yeah, we still are considering around 3 types of basic ways of getting there. And one important thing as well to remember about those 3 things is that any of the career steps you take, whenever it happens, it should always be something that is strategic. Right? If you're choosing, for example, a studies program, well, it might be something that covers your needs for some time, but then does it really mean that it's going to help you in the longer run? So all of those pieces that should be considered a bit like Lego, right? And this type of Lego that you're building up to have finally your house.
Right. No, I love that you mentioned that. I know you have that strategic sort of approach to things. I love that as well. I do like a proper structure. But it's important, right? Because we can do so many things just to do them because they seem right, or someone told us that this is the way to do it. But actually it's important to know what you want to achieve through this move abroad, and then go from there, rather than by something that someone told you that worked for them, but might be in a different situation completely.
Yeah, completely. But also, the funny thing about that is, you can try. You can always try. But if you do it without really being there strategic for yourself a bit in the future, that would probably mean that you will struggle on one of the steps. When it comes to me, for example, I started, if you want, my international career really moving a bit like that, because I thought, okay, I'm just going to move to France for some time, and then maybe I will find a job. But it was an exciting opportunity to go do my master's. In the end, there was a certain step in my project where I struggled, and it was at the time when I had to find my first job. So actually, in order for you to struggle less, you probably have to be a little bit more strategic and not try to correct things on the go.
Right. I mean, you probably can. It's just a little bit more frustrating, which is why we're doing this live, to help people avoid those mistakes that we made.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then, look, so strategy is important. I think we all agree on this, but then what does it mean? Like, what do we actually need to consider when moving abroad, when making that decision?
Well, a number of factors. I mean, what you need to consider, probably your willingness to do that, probably your own personality traits, your own objectives for the future. Yeah, I would say, this is funny. If you would have asked me 10 years ago to take any type of personality test where I would be asked if I were proper fit for some kind of expatriation experience, I'm 100% sure that I would not pass that test. No, I would not pass it because I'm very sensitive to criticism. I'm sensitive about my own country and origins. I'm not very easy opinion changer and so on. I have strong beliefs. That actually means that the person who has all of this, pack, unfortunately, is not a very good candidate for expatriation. They say in theory, right?
Mm.
What it means in practice is that you probably will have to suffer a bit. That doesn't mean that it's not unsurmountable. It's not, you cannot do anything about it, but that means that you will have to pay a price. So yeah, you choose what's important, and if really you think that this type of move can be important to you and will bring you benefits in the longer run, then go for it.
Right. So basically what you're saying is like there might be, we can talk about it more actually, because I'm then curious how you overcame this, because you are living abroad and you're successful, right? But then I just think there might be some things that people tell you or some tests that you will do. It's similar with like career centers in high schools and universities. You do a test, they tell you like you can do this or you cannot do that, or you're better fitted for this rather than something else, and then you kind of take it into yourself and start believing it, and sometimes it may be good guidance, but just keeping that mind open I think is important, because you've made it and so many other people have made it. It's just, I think it's just this element of, we both have grown up in one country for 20 plus years, so we've been really like immersed in this culture, and also those countries are not really that welcoming to foreigners. There's not that many expats, right? I mean, maybe Moscow, but generally I think as a country we're not that international in a way, right? It changes slowly, but still it's nothing compared to London. Like when I first came here, I was just like, wow. At the same time, I was like overwhelmed by the diversity of people, of backgrounds, of the opportunities, everything. But at the same time, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like this little girl from Poland, and I don't know anything like beyond that. So I think there is a little bit of that. When you get put into that environment and that experience, you start to grow whether you want it or not. And it's just whether you make use of it or not, I think, is also the question, how open you are to the experience itself, even though you might not have that initial predisposition, if you will. So I wonder what your experience was then with that move initially.
Well, they sometimes say, that when you're moving abroad, no matter your qualities or your adaptability, at a certain point of time, you're going to experience what they call a social death. Which unfortunately is the moment when you understand that you no longer belong to one place and then you belong to a different one, probably, but only partially, and you have to figure out yourself on how you manage all this. So when it comes to my experience, yes, I think I had a hard time. I had to learn lots of things on the go. I had no counseling available. I had nothing in terms of preparation, psychological preparation, and all these things. So actually, the idea is that you just take it or leave it, right? You adapt or you do not, and then you try to figure out on the go how it's going. And also it's good if you have some chance to have access to some counseling, or if you have access to someone who is more or less professional in this area and who can help you and who can guide you, and also reassure you that you're not alone in this experience, and it's not just you who is experiencing this, really. So you understand me pretty well, because your blog is all about that. And I think you have mentioned in the beginning about the high school tests or something, when they are telling you what to do or what not to do. And when it comes to career counseling, here I would say it's one of the worst things that you can ever have is when someone tells you what to do. This is normally not something that should ever happen again, because I mean, it's you who decides if you do it, if you do not. That's really a question of personal choice, and you just pay the price that might probably be higher. But if your choice is quite a conscious one, and you are aware of what's gonna happen, and if you're gonna play it hard, but you're ready for it, just go for it.
Yeah. Oh, so much wisdom and so much wisdom. So then I wonder, are there any careers that are better suited for expats than locals? That was actually one of the questions someone sent through before, and I actually think it's a valid one. And I wonder, I'm not sure. What do you think about that?
Well, I would probably not rely as much as that on dividing people into expats or locals, because I think it brings a little bit with some kind of discrimination stuff, and I don't want to go there. But I would sometimes have people who would approach me and tell me, well, listen, I cannot have a career in communications anymore because this is not my native language. I cannot have a career in journalism. This is not my native language. I will never compare with the locals. To which I say, well, listen, there are certain positions that indeed require that we do have a bit of local touch. We have this local language or whatever. But what if you land a position that does not require you to be a native speaker, that just does not require you to be that person who is going to proofread everything you produce? Can it still be a position in communications? And then people think and they say, well, probably yes, but I don't know how. And that's the question, on how you get to that kind of position where it's not you who is the native speaker, where it's you who is probably proofread by someone else. But that's just another story.
Yeah, no, I love what you said there, because it's kind of like there may be some roles that are not either better or worse for either, right? But then again, there are some skills that that both expats and locals bring to the table, right? And regardless of where they come from, and it's just kind of finding your way around what are those strengths that you're bringing to the table, really? What are sort of weaknesses, such as like, I don't speak the local language, so yes, it might limit you a bit realistically, but then there are other opportunities as well, and it's sometimes hard to see beyond them if you're just looking at ads, job ads, like a specific set of job ads even, right? And you don't sort of expand beyond that.
Yeah. This is actually a lot what some of the candidates suffer from at the beginning, especially when they are seeing most of what they are as a weakness. And what I say, get rid of the weaknesses, really. Weaknesses, does that matter as much as that? Many candidates would come to me and would ask me, well, how do I explain or how do I justify my employment gap? You don't have to justify anything. It's not a question of justifying yourself against someone else's judgment. Really, very often the recruiter does not need to know what has been happening there. They just need that you know about that you're able to talk about that, and nothing more than that, really. And while you're still focusing on all those weaknesses, on the gaps, on anything that does not belong where it should belong, you might be unfortunately missing what does belong. What are your results from your previous workplace that will help you in the next one? What are your strengths? What are the unique things that you bring to the table?
Exactly. And I think one more important thing in this, because I was working recently with a sort of coaching client, because I'm doing the coaching certification as well, so I'm working with people to make it happen for me as well. And she's such a strong professional as well, and she wasn't applying for jobs that she really wanted because she didn't meet all the criteria, right? She thought she has to meet 100% of criteria, and she's just really focusing on those weaknesses, right? In a way, like in her eyes, it was weaknesses that she doesn't do this or she doesn't have that experience. But then really just reframing it in your mind that no, you also have a lot of strengths and a lot of experience. The fact that you do not have that specific one does not really mean anything. You have so many transferable skills, and it's just how you frame it in your mind, really, where it all begins.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, a lot. But you know, when it also comes to this question of how much of a fit I am with a certain job, this is really, really funny, because they have conducted a research that was about asking men and women on how they estimate how they fit for a job. And so in this test, they had a group of volunteers, and when men were feeling like they were closing at least 70% of what was required in the job, they were generally applying. And I do not want to sound as a feminist, because unfortunately, when it comes to women, they were only applying when they were closing 100%, when they felt they were completely confident about the task, about the job, and so on, which yeah, shows a bit of a difference probably in the way it works. And also shows that we're sometimes lacking confidence, and this is not something that we should be doing, very simply.
It's such a shame, right? Because there's so many jobs that they really could go for, or at least apply for and get an interview,
and
right?
then well, I wish they had conducted also this type of research with the expats to get to know how it compares, you know, how the locals get to apply to jobs compared to the people who are foreign to this environment, and whether they are confident or how the confidence is affected, really. So yeah, that's an interesting one to explore. But indeed, I think that you mentioned a bit transferable skills, and that's what makes it, because it doesn't mean that we should always have had 100% of the skills for a given job, but we might have performed some other tasks in the meanwhile, and if those compare somehow to what is asked for in the next job description, this may actually be a fit. Although the problem of many candidates is that they do not always know how to read the job descriptions in order to really understand what's needed.
Right, that's what you're doing.
They should come to my blog.
There you go.
And get to know more about that.
We'll link it all up after live, obviously, as well, so people will have the chance to get to know you and explore your materials for sure, and connect, right, if they want to work with you as well. Yeah, absolutely. So so in terms of those strengths and weaknesses, that we're talking quite high level at the moment, but like, if you have literally like no idea, like, how do I even find out what can be considered a strength in where I'm applying in the Happy Land? Like, what can I use in Happy Land?
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering to specify your question, if this applies to, you mean a certain market or a certain function, or what do you mean by knowing strengths in a certain environment, or just as related to you as an individual? What would you like to focus on? Because this seems a bit...
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, there may be two different questions. Let's start with your personal strengths. Like, I've never even wondered what my strengths are. How do I know?
Yeah. Well, this is a fun one, because there are lots of ways to find out. All right, you may start with informally interviewing people around you and sending them just a very short questionnaire to say, well, listen, I'm digging into my strengths. I would like to get to know more about them. I'm going through a little process. So if you could name my 3 biggest strengths and put them on paper for me, this will help me a lot. Generally, people reply, and then you have certain tendencies, right? Imagine you have interviewed 5 people who know you well professionally. Amongst those 5, there were some people who know you quite well. Amongst them, there were probably some of your friends, your academic supervisor, probably someone from your work, from your previous work, and you see the tendencies in there. And generally, also, people, they will not, just say something that completely does not belong, right? They have seen you, they have a certain vision of yourself, so they give you a certain indication. This is one step, all right? Another thing, on the internet, you can now find lots of questionnaires, such as one which is called High Five Test, right? This is all about defining your strengths, understanding what your biggest strengths are. Well, I have taken it. I mean, it helps as a first overview of what you are what you are about, what your strengths are, but I find it a little bit superficial in terms of what it describes. So basically, it's a question of knowing yourself more. There is a different questionnaire which is called the MBTI that everyone knows about right now, but it's more about personality traits, although still it is sending a bit of messages about the strengths, right?
Yeah. It
So
shows
we
your
all
behavioral
have
patterns, right?
natural strengths, we will all have some functional strengths, we will all have some strengths once related to the market, because every time there will be different layers, right? So if we start really with personality, probably an MBTI questionnaire is something to take, right? Or probably you just can start with interviewing people around you. Then when it comes to more specific things, there are still other methods, you know, to assess yourself against the benchmark of others on all those skills. But this requires really a consistent work with the skill set, with competencies, and this is something that, for example, HR people, they do it really professionally. And it's kind of hard also for an individual candidate who does not know how to work with competencies to get into this business. The first thing to get started with is already know what kind of competencies can be there, analyze job descriptions and understand, pick up from them little pieces of competencies that can be applicable to themselves or not. So that's just the starting one. But really, it's a long work behind the scenes that, people generally do with a career coach, or if it's offered at their enterprise, very often it's an HR coordinated process. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that it's a process, right, of getting to know yourself and building your skills, because it's so often you do those tests, whether it's MBTI, or I would probably also add the Gallup Strengths Finder. It's also a good one. Some of them are paid for, some of them are free, and so there's lots of opportunities, right, that you've mentioned. But then just doing the test or just asking people and gathering that information just means that you have the information and you can name what you've sort of maybe known about yourself, and you have the language to speak about it. But then actual work starts when you've identified those and you can work on them, and you can see where they can fit, you can see how you can use them, actually you can see how you can develop them, right? Like that's where the real work is, and it's good to have support for this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on then to the other side of the question that you very rightly pointed to before. So let's say I know what my strengths are now. I may have done some work to develop them with a professional, with my HR. Maybe I've spoken, right, if I want to transfer between, internally within the company. So how do I know what is useful to the Happylandia market?
All right. So yeah, just imagining that you have no idea about Happylandia market. There are two ways to get to know what is trending on that market. The first one is what the consultants generally call conduct a desktop research. Attention, yeah, this is this is serious. So what that means in reality, let me translate from consultant language to a very simple human language. That means research on the internet what is available in terms of the different things. So the first thing to do is read about that field that you are targeting in your specific geography in Happylandia, all right, about what is there on the market, what are the top players, who is doing what are the trends, in digital marketing in Happylandia. So you just read it up, and by this you start getting also some names and getting some top players in the industry. It's also interesting sometimes to check up the regulators in the industry, because it's not the jobs are not only in the top players, they are also in all of the different mechanisms that are around the industry. So let's say I don't know, you're working for an airplane construction facility. That means that you might also be checking out some jobs that are probably adjacent to that one, and not in the industry directly, but something that is related, or something that is in the stakeholders, in the clients, in the providers, in the suppliers. So all of these pools really of people and opportunities and companies should be checked upon. So, okay, just imagine you have conducted this type of research and you have found out that in Happylandia there is this company that is called Magic Mania, and you would love to work for Magic Mania, but you're wondering if this is the right fit for you. So what you will do is probably you will go first of all check on the salaries. And you can use resources such as Glassdoor to get to know how much they are getting paid in Magic Mania. Maybe it's not the right fit, you know. This is the thing that generally interests all candidates. So they go to Glassdoor and they get to know how much they can be paid. And another important thing to check out goes via a different channel. So once you have already conducted your desktop research and you think that you possess lots of information, it's probably also time to go to the network. To go to the network and to see real people, to find a couple of guys who work for Magic Mania and ask them what is really behind the scenes. What is that they are doing every day? Just conduct a short information interview that helps you also to understand what the stakes are in their business, what kind of company culture is there, what kind of managers they have, all of those details which unfortunately you cannot find by just doing a desktop research. That's the limitation of it. So one day you have to also go live and find out what is really at stake.
Yeah. But then that also opens up the doors for you, because that's how you start building your network. You won't just go up to someone and like interview them, right? You will build a relationship through those conversations as well. So it's such a good way to do this. Yeah. How do you see LinkedIn playing a role in this? Is it worth
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. We have a network that has all of those different companies, all of the connections. We don't need the address book anymore. You know, when in ancient times, you've had those kind of telephone numbers written down in notebooks, but right now you don't even need it because you have the network of people who are each of them connected to some kind of network. So just go ahead and use it. And I mean, people are on LinkedIn also for some reason, because the professionals who really want to grow and to understand their worth on the market, they are networking all the time. I'm sometimes saying, you know, that the job search should never stop. And this is not something the candidates want to hear. You know, that I see that tomatoes go into my face because you know, you don't want to be job searching all the time.
Yeah, you want to be
done. Still, you know, the job search should never stop, because this is how you assess your skills against what is trending on the market. You also assess how much you're getting paid, because maybe your employer is a little bit greedy and you need to scale up your salary a bit and so on. So really, is a source of precious information that you should always use.
Yeah, and you never know, there might be just this next step waiting for you there, right? And if you're not out there looking, connecting with people, you might never even know about an opportunity. Yeah, so with you. I want to make sure that we also move on to the questions that people have sent through, just to see if we can share our perspective on it. So the first question is, we briefly touched upon it, but just to see what other opportunities are there. What if I don't speak the language of the country I want to live in? Like, can I still make it in that country?
Yeah, well, that's a bit of a general question in a certain sense, because every country and every geography is going to be very different. Every function also is going to be different. Let's say I would like to be a model in Korea, right? Do I need to speak Korean? Well, there are examples that prove probably not, really. When it comes to the developed markets, such as what we have in the European market, what we have in the US, and if you want to have a job that really is a quality with at least a bachelor's degree job, that probably means that you need to know the language, because the language is also one of those pieces that will make you construct your foundation, and in the end that will also make a potential employer assess you against how many criteria you check, right? So you should also know what is the net worth of knowing your language in a certain geography, and if it's really crucial. And if it's really crucial for you as a professional in your field, because you would also probably tell me, oh, I know an IT guy who was recruited in Singapore and he has no knowledge of Chinese or whatsoever. But, you know, this is a very different example of a geography. That's one thing. The second thing is that it's going to depend highly on your profile, on your function, and on how much value the knowledge of a certain language adds on to your profile.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I think I've got a similar sort of experience, but then also, as we mentioned before, it's really very dependent on the job that you want to do, or that is accessible to you, because it doesn't have to always be a requirement, but if it is, then yeah, it might limit your options. At the same time, if you might speak other language as well. You might speak your native language, which is not English, let's say, and it might be valuable on that market, right? So it's always an added strength in a way. Yeah. Daria, thank you so much for sharing your story. That's amazing for someone to call you back after 10 minutes. Really great. And thanks for sharing that book recommendation too before. That's really helpful for others who are watching this, I'm sure, as well. I've got another question for you.
Please.
From people who've been sending that over the past week. So the question is, how do you create, or can you create, a career abroad when you're also very close to your family? Like, is it possible to marry to be abroad and also like be close with your family? I think that was a concern for the person.
Yeah, I think this was so far probably the most complicated question for me out of this whole discussion, because, you know, you are living abroad, you start asking yourself questions at a certain point of time because your family might be far away from yourself, and you're wondering, right, on how much do I have the right to be here, on what is my moral obligation. And at a certain point of time, you also probably start start asking yourself a different question, which is what it is, the adulthood. What does it mean really to, they call it in psychology, get separated from your family? What does it mean, separation from your parents? Does it mean that you have to physically be there? Does it mean that you have still chance to be somewhere else and be probably present virtually or somehow else? And there are no easy answers to those questions, I think. I've recently read a book by Tara Westover, which is called Educated. Maybe you've heard about that one or read about that.
I did read it, yes.
Yeah, so the idea really is, what is adulthood, right? And what does it mean to give up some part of yourself, of your own personality, of your own family, for what you want to become, right? So it's always, you know, not an easy choice, and I think there is no answer at all. But for those who are still wondering, I think I would definitely recommend this book.
Yeah. I would add to this, like, I think it is possible. Clearly, so many people are doing it. But then I do also think it's a little bit of a choice about what is important for you at the moment. Like, what are you prioritizing, perhaps? Because I think there are, and we've been talking about on my profile about this in the past week as well. I have some more content prepared for you guys on this too. You know, we can face all this like guilt tripping from a family, like, you left us, you're so far away, because they're missing you as well. It's normal, right? And it's just human emotions. And so I think it's just understanding that they miss you, you miss them, but at the same time, maybe you can be with them in some other ways, or just go back and forth if it's possible, if it's close by. If it's not, then maybe, I mean, the virtual world right now is just amazing, right? We're talking as if we were in the same room. I find that really great, right? Like, and we've been experiencing this for the past 6 months. So it's just I think realizing what is important for you at this given moment. Maybe your move abroad doesn't have to be permanent, right? I mean, it never is. Like, I don't think we can ever say it is, but maybe it's not long term. Maybe you could take like a 6-month project somewhere abroad, right? Or do some sort of volunteering abroad, or something like this that will give you that experience that you want, but at the same time it will be a limited amount of time away from your family. So I think there are ways to think about it. and there are options to marry the two, but it's essentially all down to choices, which are not always easy when you live abroad. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. All right, I have one last question from our viewers, and it is around how did coronavirus change things, and like, is it still possible to move abroad and find, you know, start building a career abroad right now?
Yeah, this is my favorite one, because basically, many people would say, well, it has changed things so much because people have lost jobs and so on. And the thing is that you should always look at the statistics, which is related to your own case. For example, if people tell me people have lost jobs, my answer to this is what kind of people, in what kind of functions, what kind of degree, university degree, what kind of education, right? What geography, in what capacity? So all of these questions have to be asked and answered before ever you proclaim something like people have lost jobs. So the same applies to this question of is it ever possible right now to be doing something abroad and to be making plans. Also, let's imagine that still making plans for an international career is not something that takes a couple of weeks or a couple of months, right? Hopefully we still also have this hope of getting out of the crisis one day, right? And if you are wondering right now what's going to happen, the best answer is to stop wondering, is to start acting. If you want this career abroad, right now we also have plenty of international options which are remote options. So why not capitalize on this opportunity? Why not see this crisis as an opportunity before you ever start doubting and thinking whether it is possible at all? So why not give it a try and give it a go? I see lots of positions on the market that are in remote. So basically, even if you're based somewhere else, you can still be hoping for a job that is in a different place and for some potential move to that place once this is always over.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you for sharing. I think it's so important, right? Like, you can already start preparing yourself for it. It won't happen within a week. It's just not realistic. But you can start preparing yourself and you can start working towards it, right? Researching, do all the things that we've said before, right?
It takes time, yeah, surprisingly.
Exactly. And start working on your skills and connecting with people, right? So I think it is possible. And that said, I have seen a lot of people actually transferring between the offices at my work in the past 6 months. So making change. So based on that and what I see from my friends as well, I think it is possible. It's just it is a matter of probably a good timing and of the preparation and of really committing to it and being sure of what you want and what is achievable and possible for you. But before I let you go, Elena, I do have one more question that I like to ask to people, which is, what are your top 3 tips for people to build a successful career abroad?
All right. Do you really want 3 tips? Do we still have time for 3 of them, or you just want 1?
I think we do. We do have about 5 minutes.
All right. So the first one, is when people say something, a successful international career. I would ask my nasty coach question to that. What is successful for you? What is success? What is your result? How would you like to measure that result? So that really it becomes for you a reward and something that you've been hoping for. So that's the first one, right? The successful intent, define it. Okay. The second tip. Yeah. We talked a lot about strategy, right? Try to estimate the different options. What does this option bring me? What is the value of this type of investment? Is it going for some kind of education right now? Is it worth it in terms of the ratio of time and money that you're going to put into it? So just don't hesitate to see all of those different scenarios. Don't just get trapped in one scenario, like one possible. Try to have little deviations of this, the plans A and B, if necessary C, and try to calculate if those plans are fit for you, depending on what you want to do. And finally, yeah, that also would mean, of course, that you have your short-term goals, you have your long-term goals, and you have all this system of goals set up that will bring you where you want to land. And finally, my very best one is all about believing in yourself. Don't give up. Don't ever compromise for something that you were not setting yourself up for. I just remember all those different steps when that I was taking when I was trying to bring my career to the place where I wanted it to be somehow. And every time I was making a compromise which was not really giving me back what I wanted. I was feeling very frustrated, and this is exactly at those moments when I was doing the wrong steps. Right now, looking back, I understand. So don't agree for less. Believe in yourself and you will get there.
Awesome, love it. So define success, create strategy, and believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thanks for round up of it.